I had a drug house 2 doors down from me for well over a year, which was a nightmare. They were dealing drugs right below the camera that the chief kindly put up for us. Had he not been caught with a gun, it still would have been going, I feel. It was all night long. It was just awful. And we have to stand up and say how we feel. Don't be afraid. Strength in numbers.
On Saturday, September 2nd, there was a small gathering happening at one of the oldest farmers markets in Ontario, located in the once coined feel-good town of Cobourg. It was a group of concerned residents who opposed the infiltration of unsanctioned safe supply and harm reduction advocacy that seems to be proliferating the area. Before we get into their efforts and their opinions, here is some context as to what led to the creation of this grassroots community group. See, the week prior, intent from the safe supply and harm reduction advocacy group called Moms Stop the Harms was present at the Cobourg Farmers Market. Their mission, according to their website, is to advocate to end substance use-related stigma, harms, and death. Their largest donors, according to the 2022-2023 annual report, include the CAI, the Canadian Action Initiative, a British Columbia grant and training opportunity for community-based organizations, SUAP, which is Health Canada's apparently evidence-based substance use and addiction program, and Interior Health, a taxpayer-funded regional health authority in British Columbia. This is the same province where harm reduction efforts have been ongoing for over 30 years. They had the first needle exchange implemented in 1989, and Moms Stop the Harm's own annual report says that British Columbia experienced the highest rate of toxic drug fatalities in their history. Of course, they say that they would be in even more dire circumstances if it weren't for their safe supply and harm reduction advocacy efforts. But it appears wherever this theory proliferates, crime and violence follow, and Cobourg has been dealing with a host of its own woes since the Ontario Regional Director for Moms Stop the Harms, Missy McLean, a registered social worker, began her efforts. In March of this year, she brought neighboring advocates to Cobourg through unsanctioned overdose prevention sites that go by the name of Tweak Easy, as originally reported by Pete Fisher from Today's Northumberland. They're about stopping the stigma of drug use, and they ran nomadic, unsanctioned, otherwise known as illegal, overdose prevention sites every Friday night from 7 to 10 p.m. because I guess that's the only time that you can prevent overdoses. That was until they finally landed in a back alley called Henley's Arcade, downtown Cobourg, which you can see in the clip to follow, because nothing quite says stopping the stigma like conducting concerted illegal activity in a back alley on a Friday night. They ran this site out of the alley for weeks, citing protest, until this past Friday when the town shut them down for their illegal event pop-ups.
A peaceful protest, which is what the town clerk, Brent Larmer, had told us we were, and so therefore we had the right to be doing what we were doing. The police had previously been coming by, checking in with us each Friday night, or most Friday nights, saying hi, carrying on. They've now changed their mind. Apparently the chief of police also knows that that police are here and that they are now choosing to enforce, we're not even sure which bylaw.
Advocates like McLean, who was uninvited to a Cobourg High School Day of Empowerment speaking engagements 2 months after she started this illegal activity, after an outpour of parental disagreements to her attendance, she was shocked as the unsanctioned overdose prevention site was shut down a mere day after the ceremonious flag raising on International Overdose Awareness Day in Cobourg, where at least one town councillor had death threats uttered at her mid-morning by 2 open-air drug users. This comes as the town has grappled with violence at a homeless encampment at the local beach, steps away from a children's day camp, where leadership was silent for nearly a week before the town opted to enforce their own beach bylaws and relocated the encampment to Northumberland County office property at 600 William Street, where it is alleged to be growing. All of this comes as 2022's Crime Severity Index publications note that Cobourg saw a nearly 42% increase in violent crime, which spiked after a broad daylight Monday morning murder in the downtown core.
This was the scene in Cobourg around 10 a.m. Monday morning. A man was shot in the downtown core in broad daylight.
Let's be clear, this is a tragic circumstance. Today, somebody lost their life. That's first and foremost. No, This is not a common occurrence for downtown Cobourg. However, this reminds us that we're not immune to the gun violence that's happening across the country.
Now back to the farmers market. A group of protesters known as Northumberland Residents Opposing Drugs was present, but the Moms Stop the Harms tent or vendor was not. Have a listen to what a few of the attendees had to say, not only about the advocacy group seen at the market the week prior, but the current state of affairs in Cobourg as a whole. And what brings you down here today, Lois Ann?
I want to bring awareness to the drug situation in Cobourg. It's really got out of hand. The situation is you're afraid to come downtown anymore. We need mental health. There was a one man that jumped on top of a car of a senior woman, half naked, and the police were called, and the police came, and they didn't take him to the hospital or anything. Like he's a danger to himself and others, I would say, to the woman that the car he jumped on, and to himself too. But there's no mental health anymore for these people. I want to stop legalized drugs. I want that stopped because they're just being sold to the kids in high school for like $1 a pill, you know, and so that now the next generation is going to be addicted to drugs. It's got to stop, and it's taxpayers' money too that are paying for these legalized drugs. And then I want more rehab. I want in the United States there's a rehab place. It's called Delancey House. It's been there for over 40 years, and and it's a proper rehab place. It's not government funded. It's all publicly funded because the addicted people that stay there stay for at least 2 years, and they have to work. They have jobs, and they make money, and so they pay for their room and board where they stay at the Delancey House, and so they don't need any government funding. And I mean, they have turned out people to be policemen, firemen, ambulance workers, you know, like they turn out like really good people, and they turn out drug-free.
Well, let's start with the acronym NROD. It's Northumberland Residents Opposing Drugs. And we've intentionally used a small O to represent oppression of drug abuse. And we chose the farmers market. We tried it out last weekend. Yeah, it was very well received. No drama, no trouble. So very well received. So we decided to do it again this week, and I think we're going to continue weekly.
On the topic of last week, there was a tent or a table here, Moms Stop the Harms. And so this is kind of being done in direct opposition to that. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, well, me and my wife went for a walk through the market last weekend, and at the far end of it, on our way around, we noticed that the Moms Stop the Harm tent had set up in the farmers market of all places, which found kind of odd. And after pondering about it for a minute or so, I decided, no, this is the right time to bring out the flag and stand in opposition, not completely in opposition of Moms Stop the Harm, but to the harm reduction aspect of it. Don't want to see people die, but we don't want to see continued enabling all over the place and just looking the other way when someone's doing drugs instead of telling them, hey, that could end your life and, you know, just completely ruin things all around you.
The drug culture is out of control, and we have to stand up as a community, not just be keyboard warriors. We have to stand up and have our say, or it's going to go like Timmins and Sudbury. It's a nightmare up there, and I don't want that to happen to my beautiful little town.
What has been happening so far in this beautiful little town that you've noticed over the last few years with the proliferation of drug use, open-air drug use, and homelessness?
A big difference between homelessness and drug addicts. Unfortunately, they get lumped into the same thing. I had a drug house 2 doors down from me for well over a year, which was a nightmare. They were dealing drugs right below the camera that the chief kindly put up for us. Had he not been caught with a gun, it still would have been going, I feel. It was all night long. It was just awful. And we have to stand up and say how we feel. Don't be afraid. Strength in numbers.
What are your thoughts on that, the Henley Arcade, where they were just shut down last night for conducting this unsanctioned overdose prevention site? Do you think something like that is helpful or harmful, and why?
I think it's really harmful because I mean, if I was an addict, and I know lots of addicts, and that would be paradise for them. A person doing drugs should have to worry about dying if you do drugs. That's the point, you know.
What are some changes in the community that you've seen as the proliferation of drug use and homelessness kind of seems to go unabated?
Well, we definitely noticed the crime rates have gone up. Seems to be more homeless encampments happening. It's a really tricky situation all the way around, but there's just not much being done, like I said, in prevention and abstaining. And, you know, we're told that stigma is wrong now, and it doesn't make sense to me that stigma is wrong, because these drugs can kill you, and who wants to die?
What do you think the solution or the start of a solution would look like?
Start of a solution. They got to do changing some laws. They can't make it so easy. Look at Vancouver. Hasn't worked there. Won't work anywhere else. Though I'm not a fan, Pierre Pepe, I like some of his ideas if it was to come through. And grassroots is very important. And as I say, we have to keep talking.
What would your message be, just in closing, to the individuals who are bringing this idea of tweaking easy and this harm reduction to the community?
It's got to stop. Last night, I saw 2 seniors coming through Buttermilk when they were set up, and they were visibly shaken. Now, that's not right. And then they told another couple, don't go down there, it's too dangerous. This is not the way to handle it, and people are getting really fed up.
Rebel News did reach out to the farmers market to inquire about the Moms Stop the Harms vendor. We wanted to know if they were an approved market vendor, and if so, what category advocacy groups fall under as per the Market Association's rules and regulations. Safe Supply and Harm Reduction doesn't appear to fall under their vendor definitions, which are businesses involved in selling agricultural, food, art, and artisan products, including homegrown produce, homemade crafts, and value-added products. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Out-of-control crime, open-air drug use, and poverty are now plaguing cities once viewed as safe and desirable places to live. It's exactly why we've launched a petition and campaign website at fixourcities.com. If you want to support our work to expose the lack of public safety seen in various jurisdictions with safe supply and harm reduction activism, then you can do so by donating whatever amount you are able to at fixourcities.com. And while you're there, you can sign our petition to demand that politicians take necessary action and the steps needed to restore public safety. That's fixourcities.com.